What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and this is going to be a video discussing a format that I haven't actually featured on the channel yet, and it's an older one, so it's one that I maybe should have covered back when I was covering 2004 formats. But this was a format that was based around one event, which, to be fair, a lot of the later formats that we cover are, but it was an event that is a bit wonky in the course of the timeline of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it was a Worlds event. And if you don't know, Worlds events generally have, separate ban lists for those events that aren't really the standard sort of like TCG lists that you get in the TCG, where they release a ban list and, you have to abide by that ban list for however many formats that follow. In World formats, they basically amalgamate like a TCG and OCG list together, and it can lead to some interesting results. And so since we are covering Yu-Gi-Oh's history through local formats and local streams, so definitely check out the stream that's happening tomorrow if you're watching this video when it releases, for more gameplay with this format. But since we're covering those sorts of micro formats throughout the game's history that I didn't really have time for on the main channel, we're going to be covering this format as well. And before covering it on the locals, I figured I'd do one video to sort of show off some gameplay, show off what the format's like. Now, if you'll note, I don't have like the correct ban list set in on Dueling Book. Normally when I do these videos, I have the correct ban list down here sort of established, but you'll see if we go to the ban list like right around this list, which would be like April 2004 or August 2004, it doesn't quite correspond to this list exactly. So I'm just going to keep it on April 2004 because that corresponds the most, but there are some key differences. For instance, this top row of cards here on this list is all banned. So you can't use Cyberjar, can't use Fiberjar, can't use Lily, can't use Yatagarasu, no Change of Heart, no Duo, no Duster, no Painful Choice, no Raigeki, and no Imperial Order, which is all, I think, very good changes to the format. Raigeki and Duster are one-sided board wipes, which is never really that fun. Change of Heart, extremely, extremely powerful, especially in an aggressive format like this. Duo takes 2 cards out of hand, and you could argue that the hand rips that give you hand information, like Confiscation, Forceful Sentry, are a bit better in general, but I do think that Duo is more frustrating because you do lose an additional card to it, so I'm happy to see this one gone. IO being gone, I mean, that is, thank the goodness, because, I mean, this card is just so bad, and it ruins a lot of DM era formats. So I like the list overall. Some other things to note is that DMOC is limited here in this format, so you can't really do any 3-MOC shenanigans that we saw in Chaos format, in the Chaos format finals recently. So that's also, either good or bad, depending on how much you like that deck. But besides that, the list is pretty similar to April 2004 in terms of the limits. But I just wanted to point out those banned cards there and the limited DMOC there. So this format, is a bit more reined in than the Chaos format that we featured on the channel, and also more reined in than Amsterdam format as well. The format does include a card pool going up to Ancient Sanctuary, so you do still have access to Monster Gate shenanigans, but with DMOC being at 1, that deck is a little bit worse, so I do think that won't be as big of a problem as it is in Amsterdam format. But, we'll have to see exactly how the locals go. But, of course, I'm not just going to share the list and then leave. I got some gameplay videos in this format as well. So let's dive into some games. But, of course, before diving into the games, I got to talk about the deck that I used, which was the winning list from the event, piloted and built by Togawa Masatoshi from Japan. And this list is just very good. It's a very solid Chaos list. It's got BLS, it's got CED, it's got a fair amount of Lights and Darks, triple Warrior Lady, double Magician of Faith, 1 Shining Angel, as well as a Breaker, a Jinzo, double Kaiku, and a Sangan here for the Light and Dark count, along with a Witch of Black Forest as well. Scientist in this deck as well. I'm not the biggest fan of Scientists in formats like Chaos, but, since I'm just playing the topping list from the event, I will be playing it in this deck. I think probably, this card should be cut if you want to build a deck for yourself in this format, for reasons that I've outlined elsewhere, namely that, this format's too aggressive, and having a monster that both costs you life points to deal with what your opponent has, and then also, costs you life points when your opponent attacks into it next turn, can be a bit of a liability. Now, there are some things you can do with Scientists in this deck particularly that, can be pretty good. This deck is playing creature swaps, so something you can do is you can potentially set up an OTK by, paying 1,000, bringing out a Reaper on the Nightmare, creature swapping it to your opponent, and then bringing out a bunch of Fusion monsters to attack over the Reaper. That's something you can do. I don't really think that will come up that often, but if it does come up, it is important to know about. Other monsters in this deck, we got a Serpent and a Tribe, which are both very important as well. Tribe just to clear the board, and Serpent just to recur is very nice. For the other spells, we got Comfy here, we got Dark Hole, we got Graceful, we got Heavy, we got Mirage. I mean, it's a who's who of power cards. Reborn, triple MST for our own Mirage and our opponent's stuff. We got a Knock to deal with their sets. We've got a Pot of Greed to draw 2, Premat to bring back our monster from grave, Scapegoat to act as defense. We're not playing things like Metamorphosis or anything like that, but it can also pair with Creature Swap, so that's kind of nice. We got a Smashing Ground to deal with their threats. We got a Snatch Steal to take their monsters. We got a Forceful to look at their hand and send something back. We got a Call to bring back our own monster. We got a Mirror Force to deal with their monsters. We got a Ring to deal with their monsters as well and deal some damage, and we got double TT to blow up the board. For the side deck, I'm not really sure exactly why everything's in the side deck, but I think Parshath's here for decks playing Scapegoat. We got Berserk Gorilla to get over decks playing Parshath, I guess, or just to get aggressive in general. We got Dawn to rip cards out of hand. We got Tomato to go into Dawn, or Reaper potentially to rip more cards out of hand. We got triple Book of Moon here. Not really sure what you'd bring this in, but I guess you'd bring it in if you're bringing in the Decrees against more trap-focused decks. Got another swap, got another knock, got a cylinder to bounce back our opponent's attacks. We got a time seal to stop them from drawing, and we got a Woboku to protect ourselves from OTKs. For the fusion deck, I sort of just put in my own fusion deck here because Dueling Book doesn't allow you to put in more than 15 cards, but you can proxy in anything that I'm missing here. The key things here are Dark Pulse with the Terrible, Fiend Skull Dragon, Ryu Senshi, and Thousand Night Restrict, along with the Reaper on the Nightmare. These are your main targets to bring out off Scientist. They're what you're mainly using it for. Dark Baldric can negate monster effects. Fiend Skull Dragon can negate targeted traps as well as flip effects. You've got Ryu Senshi here to negate traps as well. So, there's a lot of things that you can do with this fusion deck. I did include a Flame Ghost and a Guiltia as well, because this is a dark and a light respectively that you can bring it off Scientist. Flame Ghost, pretty weak stats, so you can creature swap to your opponent, get a dark engrave that way if you want it in grave, as opposed to Reaper on the Nightmare, which will stay out of grave. And Guiltia is the highest attack light monster in the fusion deck. There's also Musician King, which is 100 attack points less, but it's also light. And I believe those are the main two that you bring out off Scientist, but I didn't really want to fit a Musician King in the side deck here. But, you could definitely do that in the fusion deck as well. Again, though, this is an unlimited fusion deck format, so you can proxy in whatever cards that you might need that are missing in this fusion deck. But it's good to have them on hand just for, reference. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. I mean, this was the winning list, so it's very, very good. It probably could be optimized more, given modern theory crafting, things like that. But we're just playing the list as is, seeing how it does in a modern environment. So let's dive into some games to see how it actually does. Okay, we got some games here against Dumbstruck, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving into the games, and they will win the rock, paper, scissors. So they are going to be going first. And let's see what they do. That's a bit rough in this format because Comfy and Forceful are both legal. But, if they don't open them, then that's pretty good. They do open Pot, though, so that's a bit unfortunate. They're just going to set one, set another, though, pass back to us. And we draw Breaker, which is pretty good. I have a couple different options here. I could just summon out Breaker, pop the back row attack into the set. But I don't want to do that necessarily because I'm worried that the set might be Magician of Faith. Since we have a Moth of our own to get back the Dark Hole, what I'm actually going to do here is just going to go Dark Hole immediately. This might be a bit aggressive. If it was Sangan or Witch, we'd get a bit punished for that. But if it's Sangan or Witch, it's going to go to grave anyways. And again, we do have a way to get back our Dark Hole with the Moth. So I'm okay doing this. We're going to bring out a Breaker as well. Pop that back row. And it's a Raigeki break, so they're going to pitch to pop the Breaker there. They've got 2 lights in grave, so that's good to know for us because, they don't have a dark setup, so they can't go chaos immediately. And also, if they summon out a dark, we don't necessarily want to just blind TT that. So I just set the TT because I don't necessarily want them to, heavy the back row. I mean, we've got Scapegoat to chain that, but I feel like it's fine just setting TT there. It could backfire on us, but they bring out Breaker, so we can just TT that. I mean, I did say that, if they bring out a dark, we don't necessarily want a TT right away. But, Breaker will deal with the TT anyways, so I think it's just good to get engraved. They do have a Chaos Monster. They got a Chaos Monster. I don't think they can kill us here, even if it's CED. Yeah, they can't kill us here, although that would be really bad for us if it's CED. So we're just going to do that. And they luckily do not have a Chaos Monster that they want to commit right now. They're just going to set one pass back to us. We go for Comfy here, get a peek at what they're working with here. See, they've got a Snatch, a Heavy, and a Tribe. It's a bit tricky. I think what I actually want to do here is just take the Tribe, because that conflicts with our Scapegoat. It also allows them to get aggressive, and I can play around Heavy and Snatch, if I think about it a bit. So I'm just going to take that, and then I'm going to set a Moth, set a Goat here. I feel like this set is probably Raigeki Break, but if it isn't, then this is a fine play. If it is Raigeki Break and they target the Scapegoat, we can always get back the Scapegoat with Magician of Faith. If they target the Moth, then that's unfortunate, but we got our Scapegoat online. So, I'm not too concerned about this. They're just going to draw a pass back to us. They've got a Forceful here. They're going to take that Jinzo, shove that back in, and pass, because they've just got a Snatch and Heavy in hand, so I'm fine with that. I flip up the Moth now, getting back that Dark Hole. I was debating getting back the Comfy here, but I know the hand is Snatch and Heavy, and I feel like, you know, again, we can play around that. So I don't really need the Comfy right now. They're just going to play around Comfy as long as they know we have it. So I'm just going to bring out this Witch, attack in for 14 here, and that will indeed all go through. So feeling good about that. Our Scapegoat is shut off for now because we've got 2 monsters on our side of the field. But, you know, if they like snatch one of our monsters, then our Scapegoat's online. If they bring out a monster attack over one of them, then our Scapegoat's online. So, you know, I'm not too concerned about this. They're just going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw a Pot, which is pretty good. I'm going to go for Pot, see if I draw a Knock to deal with that set. I don't. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go for this Dark Hole, prevent them from getting, you know, any value off that set, unless it's like Sanguine Witch. But if it's Sanguine Witch, we can potentially play around that with whatever we search out here. We're going to search out a Kaiku here, and then we're going to get aggressive and try and banish some things from their grave. We're going to attack in for 1800. They're going to Mirror Force that. I think that was a good hold on the Mirror Force for the Kaiku there. And then it's a bit tricky because they do have Heavy Storm. But I think what I am going to do is I'm just going to Fire Mirage, set a Mirror Force, pass back to them. If they heavy this board, we do lose Mirror Force, but we get to chain Scapegoat, and we get to keep all 4 cards that we draw off Mirage. So I feel like it's not the worst trade for us. And if they don't, you know, we got Mirror Force set to protect against things. So we're going to draw 4 off that Mirage. Those are some pretty good ones. I mean, we have 2 Chaos monsters here. We have Serpent to, you know, pitch off Mirage, get back. And so I feel pretty good about this. They're going to set 2, Fire Mirage, and pass back to us. So we know those 2 are heavy and Snatch. So, you know, we can sort of play around that a bit. But anyways, in standby phase, you know, they're going to pick 1 for us to keep off that Mirage because we drew 4. So we have to pitch 4. And we're also going to add back that Serpent because they did pitch that. So they're going to draw 4 off their Mirage, and that may come up next turn. So we've got a bit of a choice here. We could potentially keep the BLS in hand because we know about the Snatch, but I've got Mirror Force, I've got Scapegoat. You know, I'm not too afraid of them OTKing here, and I can get in for half their life points this turn. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to banish a Light and a Dark, bring out this Serpent, and then just attack in for 3,300. Now, I'm trying to also partially bait them into just attacking with the BLS instead of banishing the Serpent with the BLS. So that's why I'm leaving the Serpent in attack, because we do have this Mirror Force here. If they have like MST, they're probably going to MST their own Mirage. And also, if they fire heavy on our back row, then they deal with their own Snatch field as well. So what they could do is they could snatch the BLS, banish it with its own effect, and then they could heavy the board, in which case we lose the Mirror Force, but then we just chain Scapegoat, and I'm not too concerned about them OTKing us from this position. So I feel fine about this. They are going to pitch 4 cards from hand, so we pick that one for them to keep. And they do pitch a Night Assailant, so Night Assailant will be able to get them back a Magician of Faith, which is a bit awkward for us. We also get to draw 4 cards here off this Mirage. So those are some pretty good ones, all things considered. If we keep Scientist, we have a way to deal with Faith, so I'm pretty happy about that. They're going to snatch the BLS and try to attack into the Serpent. We're going to fire the Mirror Force here to deal with that. And then main phase 2, they're just going to set 2, pass back to us. So we will unfortunately lose a lot of our hand here, so we lose everything except for the ring, and they will be able to draw 4 off that Mirage there. So it's a bit tricky. We know the set's a Moth. We're just going to set a ring, pass back to them. They don't really have the best spells in grave. I mean, Pot's a pretty good spell, so that's probably what they're going to get, but like, there's nothing that's like, you know, oh no, we lose the game on the spot with it. So they do have this MST as well for their own Mirage, and we get to draw 4 off our Mirage, so we draw 2 MST. So a bit of insurance in case they flip up to get back that Forceful. So that's kind of nice. But they're going to pitch 1 Thunder Dragon, grab 2 Thunder Dragons from deck to hand here. Get a Light Engrave, deck thing a bit. Flipping up this Moth to grab back the Pot, which I do think makes the most sense here. You could go for Forceful to try and take late MST, but you know, that gets punished by the hand we have now. And also, we might be losing the hand anyway. So I think Pot's better, giving yourself more resources here. They go for Premat, and they target DD Warrior Lady, and that is going to be fine by us. They're going to bring that out, go to battle, try and attack into the Serpent here. We've got a ring to deal with the Warrior Lady, so that way we won't be losing our Serpent here. And it also drops them down to 1,000, which is a very, very scary spot for them to be in. They go for a Reborn, targeting our BLS here, and that's going to be a bit unfortunate because they can actually banish our Serpent, but we do have Snatch Steal to deal with that BLS. And also, you know, that Moth is in attack. It did flip up this turn, so, you know, they can't quite protect against this if they don't have a way to deal with our board. And because we have this double MST, we can MST our own Mirage, and then we can MST the new set that they have. We have to check the log to make sure that the set that we've got is actually not the heavy that they set earlier. We're going to MST that back row to TT, which is pretty good. We're going to snatch the BLS, and that should be the end of the game. So that will be the end of the game. So very exciting game there in game 1. You know, shows the power of this deck for sure. And also shows the power of Mirage, because Mirage dug us both through our deck quite a bit. And we saw a fair amount of power cards with Mirages. So we're going to go into game 2 here. They're just going to set 3, set 4, fire a Mirage, pass back to us. We don't want that Mirage to go off, so we're just going to MST that Mirage, get rid of it there. And, you know, they're going to use the Dust Shoot to take apart our hand a bit here. Bit unfortunate. We wanted to bring out the Witch and just attack in because I figured that some of that back row is probably live. So, you know, I wanted some of that the Witch because if it is live, then we get a search off that, and that's fine. But they're going to shuffle back that Witch there, get into the deck. And we have a bit of a choice here. We could play into the back row, which I am in favor of doing because it seems like they don't have much aggressive pressure here. Not really many monsters. So I'm fine just bring out a monster, trading with one of their back row, attacking in. I'm going to bring out the Shining Angel because if they don't have a way to deal with the Shining Angel, then problematic for them on the following turn. I also want to keep the Kaikus around because it deals with bigger threats and also can banish cards from their graveyard to keep them off chaos plays. So I'm fine just bringing out the Shining Angel, attacking in. It looks like that will go through. They're going to Raigeki Break to pop the Shining Angel. They can get back the Serpent in standby phase. So that's pretty good for them. I feel like they drew the Serpent there because they probably would have committed it if they, you know, had the Mirage up. So they're going to set that, pass back to us. We drove for Warrior Lady here to try and deal with the Serpent there. They will use a ring on that, so that makes sense. We'll take 15. They'll take 15 as well, and we'll just pass back to them. We're not drawing any spells and traps, but we're drawing pretty good cards overall. They draw Thunder Dragon, which doesn't really help them out here. It does deck thin for them, but it does cost them basically a turn of value, right? And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Thunder Dragon in these full power chaos formats. Yes, it does deck thin. Yes, it gets light and grave. But like with so many powerful cards in the format, you kind of always want to be drawing something that does something. And Thunder Dragon did not do something. So, you know, I feel like it's not my favorite card in the format, but it is fine. You know, it does deck thin a bit. And, you know, it does get you more lights and graves. So that's a bit more flexibility with your chaos stuff. We're going to attack into that Serpent with the Witch here. They're going to add back that Serpent to hand. And they're going to go for Forceful, getting a peek at our hand. I mean, they know the hand exactly. Because we haven't used up the cards still in it. They're going to Forceful away that Kaiku, which tells me that they don't really have a way to deal with the Witch, and they're just going to pass back to us. That means that it could be a TT set, could be something else. They've not used up TT yet, so it's very likely to be TT, but I'm just going to try and bait out the TT now with this Breaker. I could have also just attacked in for 11 first and then done this, but I'm just going to go for it now. Looks like they call the Haunted, so I'm fine with that. Also, I figured, like, if they had TT set, they probably would have set the Serpent, so I figured they were trying to bluff TT. But at the same time, like, you know, by not saying the Serpent, it was kind of not a bluff. They might not have been trying to bluff it. Maybe I was just reading too much into it. But either way, I felt like it was fine to go for this. And it looks like it was. They're going to bring out a Kaiku to attack over the Breaker here, which is a bit unfortunate for sure. We do lose our Lights and Grave, and Lights are at a premium in this deck. So, you know, it's a bit rough, but we do have this Kaiku to deal with their Kaiku and get in for 11 next turn. Or we just draw Creature Swap and win the game. So what we do is we bring out Kaiku here, Creature Swap them, our Witch, and now we've got more than enough damage to kill them. 700 from one Kaiku attacking over the Witch, and then 1800 from the other. So that'll be 2500 damage total. And so that should be the end of the game. If they've got a Karibo, we still get a search off the Witch, so that's kind of nice. We also get to banish their light. And yeah, it's just going to be the end of the game. So, end of game 1, you know, this deck was pretty dominant against Dump Truck's deck. I mean, we did get a bit lucky with our sequence of draws here, I will say. But, you know, I think that also, you know, we played well. And that mattered a lot in a deck like this. I will say Jinzo felt a bit underwhelming. Like, I'm not sure if I'd keep Jinzo in the deck in the future because you sort of have to have a monster on field to tribute for Jinzo. And I feel like most of the other normal suns in your deck are doing more important things for you in this match than Jinzo is. But, you know, we're playing a historical list partially to see what we'd want to change, what we'd want to keep, etc. So, you know, it's important that we're playing these games like this. But this wasn't the only game I got against Dump Truck. Let's dive into the next one now. Okay, we got our second game against Dump Truck here, and we're diving into the game. We're keeping the decks the same because this was just a straight-up rematch on Dueling Book, so we couldn't change our decks out, but that should be fine. And we are going second again. We lost the Rock, Paper, Scissors again. Our opponent's going to draw one. They're going to set two, pass back to us. Feel pretty good about that. We draw a Warrior Lady, which is pretty nice. Now, what we could do here, and I think, honestly, in hindsight, I should have done this. We could activate MST, pop the back row, summon out Warrior Lady, attack into the set. I feel like this set's probably Sangan or Serpent or Witch or something like that. Something that we'd want to banish with Warrior Lady. But I figured we got two Warrior Ladies in hand, so what we can do here is we can just bring out one Warrior Lady, attack into the set. If they've got a way to deal with that Warrior Lady, we've got another on the following turn to deal with the monster there. We also have Comfy as well, in case like TT and they search something out with the Sangan. So, yeah, I feel okay about just bringing out a Warrior Lady attacking into the set. But I feel like I probably should have just used the MST here. But they go for Ring on our Warrior Lady and deal 1500 to each of us. And then we're going to Comfy and get a peek at their hands. We've got a Night Assailant, a Raigeki Break, a Warrior Lady, and a Heavy Storm there. I think what I want to take is the Warrior Lady because I don't want them to be able to get too aggressive with that monster there. So it did put a Light Engrave, which is a bit awkward for us. But I think it is better to take that and leave them the United Assailant, the Raigeki Break, and the Heavy. Although you could argue to pitch the United Assailant now while they don't have a Flip Monster in Grave, so that way they can't get anything back. But I do feel like the Warrior Lady is the best choice. So I'm just going to go for that and take that out of their hand. It was a big think, though. And I'm just going to keep the MST in hand so that way they can't, like, heavy storm it, because MST is the way we want to deal with Raigeki Break. Unfortunately, they draw into Forceful, so that's going to deal with our Warrior Lady there. So that's going to be a bit rough. They then flip up a Sangan attack in for 1,000 here. And then main 2, they're just going to set 1 pass back to us. So I think they didn't set anything because, we know that it would be a Raigeki Break if they did set it. So I'm okay with that. We are going to think about this. And I think what we want to do here is just set the Typhoon pass because, I don't want to sort of lead on that, the set is MST. I want to maybe bluff like, oh, it's TT or something like that we drew. So that way they use up their Heavy Storm. And also I want them to build up their board a bit more for Dark Hole because, if I Dark Hole now, it's basically an even trade. Yes, I deal with the Night Assailant, but the Sangan replaces itself and that's not really the best for me. So I'd rather save the Dark Hole for later. And they're just going to go heavy there, which makes sense. They're going to attack in for 1,000, dealing us 1,000, dropping us down to 3,500, and they're going to set another pass back to us. And I feel pretty good about that. We are going to Dark Hole the board away, and they do get a search here, so Raigeki Break will be online, but we do hit a Night Assailant and a Magician of Faith, so I feel pretty good about that. We are just going to set them off, set the Scapegoat here, pass back to them. And this is sort of a similar situation to the first game, where, like, if it's Raigeki Break, which it is Raigeki Break, they can either pop our Magician of Faith or our Scapegoat. Either way is basically equivalent for us. I mean, obviously, we'd like them to pop the Scapegoat more than the Faith, because the Faith is a little bit more flexible. But if they pop the Faith, we still have our Scapegoat online, so I'm not too worried about that. They're going to go for Raigeki Break here, popping the Faith, getting back the Serpent here in standby. And they're going to pitch a Thunder Dragon, adding 2 Thunder Dragons from deck to hand. And unfortunately, they're not able to sort of capitalize on our empty board. They just have to set a monster pass back to us. We draw a Reborn, which is pretty good here. We can Reborn, target their DD Warrior Lady there to banish the Serpent, get that out of play, and leave them with just 2 Thunder Dragons that don't really do anything here. So we're going to pass back to them, and they're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw a Smashing Ground, which isn't really the most useful thing for us, so we'll just pass back to them. They're going to pass back to us. A lot of set and passing in this game here. We're going to set the Smashing, go for a Mirage. Now we're drawing 3, and that will indeed go through. We don't draw an MST, but we draw Pot, Scapegoat, TT. Those are pretty good. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. And unfortunately, we still do not draw that MST. So they pick 2 for us to keep. They pick the Jinzo and the TT, which is unfortunate because I would have liked the Scientist or the Pot. But, that's how it goes sometimes. We're going to set the TT here, pass back to them. And then in standby phase, we're going to draw 3 more. Still don't draw that MST. They're going to flip up a Warrior Lady here. I could have potentially saved the Torrential because I do have Smashing Ground to deal with the Warrior Lady. And they do have a Chaos Monster that is online. So I should have probably saved the TT for that. But I do have the Scapegoat here to block off an attack. It's just if it's CD, then we lose, I think, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cards. So that's 3,600. I mean, the TT would blow up the CD when it comes out and use its effect with Prio. So, like, that would keep me barely alive here. But, I'm probably losing the game either way if they have CD. So, but I probably should have just saved the TT just for that. Although it wouldn't have mattered because they would have just attacked in with the Warrior Lady. I guess we could have used Scapegoat to protect her life points a little bit, but then we'd lose our Scapegoat tokens off the TT. So it's just a bit awkward here. So I think the TT there is fine. I think if I was being a bit safer, I should have just saved it, gone for the Scapegoat here, Smashing Ground the Warrior Lady next turn. But, it's fine. I do draw an MST here to pop my own Mirage, which is pretty good. And now we're going to, go for Witch, attack in for 1,100. Drop them down to 5,400 and just sit on this. We've got a TT as well. So that way, if they summon out anything else to deal with the Witch, we've got TT to blow that up. And so I feel pretty good about this. They go for a Grateful here, draw 3, pitch 2. It's pretty good for them. Gets those Thunder Dragons out of their hand. And they get 4 live cards, presumably. They go for a prevent here, grabbing back that DD Warrior Lady. And that is going to be fine by us. I was debating TTing this, but I think I want to save TT for a Chaos Monster now that they're getting deeper into their deck. And, ultimately, I've got a Warrior Lady in hand. I've got ways to protect myself here. I'm not really too concerned with them banishing our Witch here. It's unfortunate, yes, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And that will indeed be a sacrifice we have to make there. They go for Kaiku here. Set one pass back to us. We draw a Graceful Charity of our own, so that's pretty good. We can offload this Jinzo from hand, and we will indeed do that. We draw into Serpent as well, which is really nice for us. We pitch the Jinzo and the Serpent. We go for Warrior Lady here, smash and ground that Kaiku. And now we are just going to go for everything here. We're going to banish Light and Dark, bring out the CD. Now, this is a missequencing on my part. What I should have done, I should have just smash and ground the Kaiku and then gone for the Light and Dark for CD, because CD is threatening lethal on its own here. So if they've got TT, if they've got Mirror Force, they've got to use it right now. And by doing this, I just sort of play into losing both my monsters here. So, yeah, and I do indeed lose both my monsters there. So that was a misplay on my part. I should have just gone for CD first. They would have had to use TT on that. And then I could bring out Warrior Lady, attacking for 15, and have a monster on board. So that was my bad. I think we're still in a good spot, though, because we got this TT and Scapegoat set here. We're going to grab back that Serpent. And you know what? We got Serpent. We got TT. We're just going to go Serpent Beats. If they bring out something to deal with Serpent, we got TT for that. So I feel perfectly fine with this scenario. And, you know, we draw Mirror Force here, which is also not bad, but I don't think we want to commit it to board just yet, because we do have a fair amount of powerful cards here. So, you know, we don't need to commit the Mirror Force as well. They go for pot here, drawing 2. And then they're going to go for a Comfy, ripping that Mirror Force out of our hand. So maybe I should have set the Mirror Force after all. But either way, I like the knock in hand, because, you know, if they set a monster here, we can knock it. But we draw Kaiku, which is pretty good. We're going to bring out that Kaiku, and we're just going to attack in for 21, I think. Get in for 3, and they've got Call for that, so they're going to bring it back a Kaiku of their own. But we can ring that Kaiku and get it out of here. So deal 1,800 to them, and then attack in for an 1,800 additional off of our Kaiku, and that'll be MST on our 2 backers. Just get more info, and they will, you know, admit defeat. What do they have in hand? They had a Dark Hole Snatch. Yeah, that's not really anything that would have been too good for them there. So that's going to be the end of game 1. We're diving into game 2, and you know, I think this is a pretty good showing for the deck overall. We have not lost a single set, or a single game even in the sets. So that's pretty good so far. They go for Thunder Dragon in the opener. So they're going to pitch 1, add 2. So deck then a bit for them. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw a Breaker here, which is pretty good. Oh, I should mention in the siding for both these games, I've set out 1 Scapegoat, put in 1 knock, because we are going second. So I figure it's more like they'll have a set monster there. And the Scapegoats, in my opinion, they haven't really been necessary so far. So I feel like, you know, we can easily cut 1 for a knock. We're going to go for pot here. Draw into, you know, some pretty good ones there, but we're just going to go for the Breaker, attack into the set with the Breaker, and that will be a DD Warrior Lady. So unfortunately, we won't be able to get rid of that back row, but we are able to banish that Warrior Lady, because if we had just attacked in after popping their back row, then, you know, we wouldn't have been able to banish that. I mean, or we wouldn't have been able to force them to banish it, right? We still technically haven't forced them to banish it, but they've got a Light Engrave anyways, so it makes sense why they would banish it there. And we're going to follow that up with a Comfy, pay 1,000, get a peek at their hands. They've got a Thunder Dragon, a Premat, a Kaiku, a Thunder Dragon, and a Dark Hole. I think of these, I kind of want to get rid of the Dark Hole. The only monster in hand I've got is Jinzo. I've got Snatch to take control of Kaiku, tribute out for Jinzo there, and Dark Hole deals with Jinzo. So I don't necessarily want to give them something to deal with what I've got in hand. And I'm just going to set an MST and a TT pass back to them. If it's heavy, that's unfortunate. You know, that's a very good pro storm on their part. But I feel like it probably isn't heavy. And having TT here is just nice to have in insurance cases. They're going to bring out Kaiku. I could potentially TT that. I don't want to, though, because that puts a Light and Dark Engrave for them. They've also got Premat, so it doesn't really matter there. I mean, I do have MST for Premat, but, like, still, you know, I feel like it's fine just taking 18. I'm not losing anything from Grave here, so I think it's ultimately okay. We go for Snatch on the Kaiku, and I do debate just, like, you know, summing out the Sangan, attacking him for 28, because that does banish the Thunder Dragon Engrave. It also prevents them from getting a Dark Engrave, and, you know, our TT will be shut off if we tribute out the Jinzo. Another reason to maybe cut Jinzo in the future. But I ultimately just decided to bring out the Jinzo here, attack him for 24. The most straightforward play. Yes, it does lose to, like, Chaos Monster, but it doesn't lose, like, lose the game, you know. If they bring out CD, that's 600 over the Jinzo, and then they pay 1,000, and that's, let's see, they'll have 6 cards total. We'll have 4 cards total. So that's only 3,000. So that's only 3,600. So we're not losing the game from that point. If they bring out BLS, attack over Jinzo, attack directly, that's 3,600 as well. If they have another monster, you know, that is game there. But I think overall, I'm not really the most likely to lose this game from this position. And this is just threatening them with aggressive pressure here. So they set 1, set another, pass back to us. We draw a Scapegoat, which is pretty good as well. We're going to bring out the Sangan, attack into the set. And that will be a Moth. So they're able to add back that Dark Hole, deal with our Jinzo. Honestly, I'm very fine with that, because we get a Sangan search here. And, you know, then our TT's back online, so we can protect ourselves a bit more. So, They are going to go for Dark Hole here, clear the Jinzo, clear the Sangam. We get a search off that Sangam. We're going to think about exactly what to do here. We're going to grab back this Witch just to get another search later. I feel that's pretty good. They go for Pre-Mat here. They're going to target the Kaiku, and I do make a mistake here. I go for MST now. What I should have done is waited till the battle phase to go for MST there. But, it didn't matter anyways because they've got Call, so they would have used that in battle. But I should have waited because if they had Reborn, then I could get punished by that. So, I go for Scapegoat here, protect against the Kaiku. It is a bit awkward into Dark Hole and TT, but I didn't want to TT the Kaiku in main 1 because then that just opened up the way for them to go like Chaos or something like that. So I'm fine with them attacking into one of our tokens here, and they're going to pass back to us. It's a bit of a tricky choice, but I do go for Dark Hole here. This will lose me all my tokens, but it does clear both their monsters and clears the way for a Witch to get in for 1100 damage here, which I'm going to do. And I've got TT as well to back up my Witch. So I'm not really too concerned about whatever they could bring out here. So they're just going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Graceful Charity, which is really good. We could hold it, but, we're at the point where we kind of want to be going for game. So we are going to go for Graceful, try and dig for that game. We draw into a Kaiku, so we're just going to try and attack in for 2900. And it looks like that will indeed all go through. So yeah, they just had a Dust Shoot and an MST. One of the downsides of Dust Shoot in this format is because everything is so high powered, you're less likely to wind up with 4 cards in hand at any given point in the game. Yes, if you draw it in the opener, it's very good. But if you don't, then Dust Shoot can be a bit awkward here. I guess with Mirage, it can be a bit better, right? Because, your opponent draws to 4 with Mirage, then you Dust Shoot away a card from hand. But if they got MST in that hand, you can't deal with that. So it's a bit awkward in that sense. But either way, very, very good games with this deck. Against more of a modern take on the format. But, playing some ideas from like GOAT and other things. But in this format, it might not be the best because, Thunder Dragon, it was just kind of rotting in their hand for quite some time. And though I think could be good because you got Mirage. Dust Shoot maybe good, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not really sure on the Dust Shoots, but either way, it's still cool to see this deck pop off. And again, as I mentioned, there are some things I changed with this deck. Maybe cutting a Jinzo, maybe cutting some Goats as well. But it'll probably take more games in this format to really be able to set up like an optimal list in the future. But I'm excited to see what people bring to the locals tomorrow for this event. I will be streaming that on the channel here, so definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to be notified when that happens, and also subscribe in general. It supports the community, grows the community more, gets more people playing these formats, and we're trying to reach 1,600 by the end of the month, which I think we can do, but we need your help to get there. Also, if you want to support me directly, I have a Patreon linked in the description down below. And if you support me on Patreon, you get a shout out in the video. Just a big shout outs to GMYFS, Rinswin, Porkchop Coon, Bryn Donker, Tyler Compton, and Dumtruck. It means a lot that you'll support me this way and encourage me to make more videos like this in the future. If you want to play games in this format for yourself, head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below. Also, let me know what you think about this format down in the comments below, what you would change with these decks, and, if you think that there are any other decks that could now be viable with the new ban list. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.